What happens when the rich kids pick a fight with the wrong girl? At Vireh Preparatory, power wasn't earned. It was inherited. The halls echoed not with the sound of knowledge, but with the swagger of last names that carried weight. Sons of governors, daughters of tech moguls. Students arrived in private cars with tinted windows and security details. Teachers whispered behind closed doors, praying not to step on the wrong toes. Vireh was less a school and more a throne room. And like all throne rooms, it had its tyrants. And then there was Celine Knox. She was the dark thread in Vireh's pristine tapestry. A girl with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that missed nothing. She came from the east side of Arkandale, a place the rich only saw through bulletproof windows. She didn't belong in their world, and they reminded her of that every single day. She didn't care. Every morning, she stepped off the rusting city bus in her neatly pressed uniform, braids pulled tight, chin held higher than the Vireh gates. She walked past gleaming cars and gleaming smiles, through the murmurs and the sneers. Every morning, the same voices rose behind her, still slumming it on public transit. Knox, watch your step. Don't want her scratching the Maserati. The voices belonged to Cashin Thorne, Emery Vale, and Bishop Carr, the unholy trinity of Vireh, sons of old money and older corruption. Their families ran the town, the courts, the schools. They ran Vireh, to them. Celine was a punchline in a joke they never got tired of telling. But Celine? She was a wall, a quiet, cold force they couldn't move. She never flinched, never fired back, never gave them the satisfaction of a reaction. She walked the marble halls like a ghost with steel bones. They didn't know who they were dealing with. Weeks passed. The bullying never stopped. It evolved. Books knocked from her hands. Her locker vandalized. Racial slurs disguised as jokes slipped onto her desk. Cashin once tripped her in the cafeteria, sending her tray flying and drawing laughter from the entire room. The teachers looked away. The principal smiled at the Thorne family's endowment letter and said nothing. Then came the Friday that changed everything. The bell had just rung. Rain clung to the sidewalks like a second skin. Celine, as usual, chose to walk a few blocks to the bus stop, away from the crowd, the cameras, the cruelty. But she wasn't alone that a black town car screeched to a stop beside her. The doors opened. Cashin, Emery, Bishop, they stepped out slowly, like they were stepping into a boxing ring. Celine stopped walking. Her eyes met theirs. Cold, focused. Where you running off to, bus girl? Cashin sneered, stepping into her path. You got a Section 8 support group to get to? Emery laughed, cracking his knuckles. You don't belong here, Bishop added. You embarrass the school. You're a parasite with a hall pass. Celine said nothing. Her hands curled into fists, hidden by the sleeves of her jacket. Her face was unreadable, trained, distant, a calm before the storm. Move, she said softly. Oh, she thinks she's tough. Bishop stepped closer. Maybe she needs a reminder of where she stands. Celine didn't blink. I'm warning you, she said, her voice like ice breaking. Cashin reached for her. That was his mistake that INA blur. Celine's foot shot out, striking Cashin's shin with bone-snapping force. He collapsed with a cry. Before Emery could react, her elbow drove into his ribs, a sickening crack. Bishop lunged. Celine grabbed his wrist, twisted, and flipped him over her shoulder onto the wet pavement. 3 seconds. 3 bodies down. Silence swallowed the street. Celine adjusted her sleeve. Her breathing was steady. No sweat, no strain. Cashin groaned, scrambling to his knees. Fury etched across his bruised face. You. Celine moved in close, grabbed his collar, pulled his face inches from hers. Try me again, she whispered, and I'll show you just how easy I went. She let him go. He fell back into a puddle, humiliated. Chase stared at her, eyes wide. What are you? Celine picked up her bag, slung it over one shoulder. You think riding a bus makes me weak? She asked. You think being broke means I can't break you? She stepped forward. While you were polishing golf clubs and learning how to cheat at debate, I was training. Every day. Cashin's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Training in what? He finally spat. Celine smiled, just barely. Muay Thai. Jiu-Jitsu. Boxing. Pick your poison. The bus hissed to a stop beside them. Celine climbed aboard. Before the doors closed, she looked back. The 3 of them stared after her, stunned, silent, soaking in their own shame. But Celine knew this wasn't over. This was only the beginning. The hum of a sleek black Cadillac Escalade broke the morning silence. It pulled up to the front entrance of Ashford Preparatory. with an almost regal air. The window rolled down slowly, revealing Principal Donovan's expressionless face. His voice came through the tinted glass, sharp and deliberate. "Miss Knox," he called. "In my office." Now. Celine didn't flinch. She had expected this. Another visit to the principal's office was nothing new, though this time she had a feeling it would be different. As she made her way toward the building, she could already feel the weight of the whispers behind her. Ashford's prestigious halls had never been kind to someone like her, a girl with no family legacy, no privileged bloodline to speak of. But that was before she had made the untouchables fall. Now, she was more than just the scholarship girl. She was someone they had to reckon with. The principal's office smelled of leather and polished wood, the scent of power and authority. Principal Donovan sat behind his desk, his face unreadable as he motioned for her to take a seat across from him. Grayson Thorne sat beside her, a fresh bruise swelling on his cheek. Behind him stood his father, James Whitmore, one of the biggest donors Ashford had ever seen. His face was twisted with fury. "This girl is a menace," Whitmore spat, voice dripping with venom. "She attacked my son. Twice. She should be expelled. Now." Celine kept her gaze steady, her arms crossed. She wasn't going to back down, not now. Not after everything she'd been through. She turned her eyes toward the principal, refusing to let the angered father sway her. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Donovan asked, his tone calm but stern. Celine didn't flinch. "I defended myself," she replied, her voice cold. "They jumped me twice. Grayson, Landon, Chase, Reed, and Brock. They cornered me, and I fought back. Simple as that." Whitmore scoffed, his voice full of disbelief. "You expect us to believe that? My son would never." He was cut off by a sudden knock on the door, and a security guard stepped inside, holding a flash drive in his hand. He walked over to Principal Donovan and handed it to him wordlessly. "We pulled the security footage from outside," the guard said, his voice level. "You might want to watch this before making any decisions." Principal Donovan inserted the flash drive into his laptop, and the screen flickered to life. The room fell into a tense silence as the footage played. It was clear. There was no mistaking what had happened. The footage showed Grayson, Landon, Chase, Reed, and Brock cornering Celine outside the school, taunting her, pushing her to the edge. And then, in a swift motion, Celine fought back, gracefully, with precision. She took them down, one by one, without hesitation. The silence in the room was deafening. Whitmore's face drained of color, his anger replaced by stunned disbelief. Principal Donovan leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepling together as he processed what he'd just seen. His gaze flickered to Celine, then back to the screen. "Well," he said, breaking the silence. "That changes everything." The fall of the untouchables the next morning. Ashford Preparatory was buzzing. Grayson, Landon, Chase, Reed, and Brock had all been suspended. The news spread through the school like wildfire, and the halls that had once been filled with their arrogant presence were now strangely quiet. As Celine walked through those same halls, she could feel the shift. The students who had once ignored her or laughed at her now watched her with a mixture of awe and respect. For the first time since stepping foot into Ashford, she wasn't just the girl on a scholarship. She wasn't just the bus girl. She was the girl who had taken down the untouchables. Her shoulders were back. Her head was high. The weight of their scorn had finally lifted, replaced with the heavy understanding that she had earned her place here. She wasn't going anywhere. As she passed by, a few students whispered among themselves. "Did you hear? Vireh Knox took down Grayson and his crew like a ninja. She took down 5 of them in seconds." No one saw it coming. Some stared at her, admiration in their eyes. Others watched with fear, finally understanding that she was not the easy target they had once thought. At lunch, she sat alone, as usual. But now, the whispers weren't about her being an outsider. They were about her strength, her confidence, and for once, that felt better than any lunch table. But even as Celine finally took a moment to breathe, she knew this wasn't over. The look in Grayson's eyes, the way he stormed out of the principal's office with his father's rage still smoldering in his chest, told her that this wouldn't be the end. Grayson wouldn't let it go. He had been humiliated, and someone like him, someone with so much power, didn't stay down for long. "I'm going to make sure she regrets this," she overheard him muttering as he left the office, his voice cold, filled with venom. But Celine wasn't afraid. Not anymore. She had proven something, not just to them, but to herself. She wasn't just a girl from the other side of town. She wasn't just an underdog. She was a force to be reckoned with, and if Grayson and his crew thought they could take her down again, they were sorely mistaken. The fight had just begun.